Hey guys, it's me, Rich. You know, if you ever needed proof that coastal elites treat half the country like a safari exhibit, look no further than Gavin Newsom and his better half, Jennifer Siebel Newsom. She is an actual woman, I'm told, which I guess that settles another mystery. But remember Newsom's grand red states tour? Remember that a couple years ago? That was the one where the California governor traveled around the country lecturing red states about how they're doing life wrong, while his own state was busy speed-running homelessness, crime spikes, and people fleeing in U-Hauls full of regret. You know, but the real gem wasn't Gavin. It was Jennifer. An old interview video resurfaced, and it turns out that she just didn't tag along for the ride to the red states. No, she brought the kids. Now, why? For a wholesome family vacation? Some Civil War history, or maybe some down-home good Southern culture? Of course not. And you're not going to believe what she says the real reason was. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media. Look, if you like our videos and you haven't done so already, you should become a subscriber. You can hit that notification bell and smack the like button because it helps us get our message out to more people. And you'll be notified every time we put out a new video. All right, so let's start with this. Gavin Newsom, California governor, champion of progressive policies, a man who thinks that the rest of the country just needs a lecture from Sacramento to get their lives together. But this story isn't really about him. It's about his wife and what she decided to do with their kids. She took her kids to red states so that they could see the racism everywhere. I'm not kidding. Forget the fact that history shows that the more the South became Republican, the less racist it became. Yes, really. Now, that alone was something. But then this interview resurfaced, and suddenly the story got a lot more interesting. Here is Scott Jennings of CNN explaining something that no other host from that network would ever be able to even understand. Give this a watch.
Gavin Newsom's wife. I have a feeling we're going to be saying this a lot, by the way.
We are.
Gavin Newsom's wife is back in the news. Some recently surfaced audio from our friends on the internet. She said they recently took a trip to red states in the South so they could teach their kids about racism and sexism and bullying, because, you know, that doesn't happen in blue states. No. It only happens in red states in the South. Let's listen to Gavin's wife. Cut 14,
You're not going to believe this.
You took your 4 kids on this trip. You're here in Alabama now. Why was it important to you to take them on this trip to red states and learn about the history in our country?
That's a great question. Well, I don't think, or I know for a fact, that we don't get all of this history in our schools. And it's part of, enlivening them, building their curiosity, expanding their hearts, their empathy, so that they themselves can be the change they wish to see in the world and recognize that, we have work to do and that we have healing to do. And so that they can be, use their voices to stand up and speak out when they see pain and suffering and bullying and racism and misogyny around them. And
you want them to see it so that they know.
I do. I'm a truth seeker. They need to know the truth.
I mean, wow. Nothing says family bonding like packing up the minivan and heading off to Alabama for a guided tour of imaginary oppression, right? Forget the beaches, forget the museums. I mean, who needs that when you can go out and find some real racism, right? I mean, think about it, guys. It's almost impressive. While most parents are trying to shield their kids from negativity, the Newsoms were actually curating a live-action documentary titled Finding Racism, the Southern Edition. Hey, kids, today we're going to observe prejudice in its natural habitat. Stay close. I mean, think about what you just heard there. She literally took her kids on a tour to red states to observe racism. I mean, pause for a moment and think about that mindset. Wow. Most parents are trying to protect their kids. These parents, wow, going out of their way to make it look like, wow, the people that live down here, oh, they're really racist. I mean, here's where it gets almost surreal. Because if you talk to people who lived in both places, liberal north or on the west, out in California, and down in the South, I mean, you hear something very different. Can you imagine the conversation with their kids? Hey, kids, we as a family, we want to go see the racism. We want to see the misogyny and all the sexism that we hear about. So let's head down to Alabama, maybe Tennessee or Georgia. I don't know. We're going to teach you kids about racism. Hey, get down. See the plight, kids? Look at all the plight. Look, children, look at the black people being oppressed. We're never coming back here to the South, so take it all in. Get your cameras out. I mean, it reminds me of the movie Vacation when they took the wrong exit off the highway. I think they went into St. Louis, and they're driving through a really bad neighborhood, and the wife goes, "Clark, what the hell are you doing? Why are we in here?" And he goes, "Oh, come on, honey. You know, we can't look down on the plight of the people. Hey, kids, look around at all the plight. Do you see the plight?" And all of a sudden, the gun goes off. Roll them up. They roll the windows up and tear ass out of there. Yeah, it was great, right? Holy mackerel. Here's the part that really stings their narrative. Talk to people who have actually lived in both places, and you often hear a very different story. Plenty of times, they will tell you that the South they experienced wasn't the cartoon villain that it's made out to be by the left. In fact, some say the most blatant, in-your-face racist attitudes came from the very left-wing enlightened places that lecture everyone else. I have a black coworker friend who told me that he grew up in the South, in Mobile, Alabama, in fact. And he said that when he was 19, he went to college in Boston. And he soon realized that he never experienced the racism at home the way that he did among the liberals at Boston U and in the surrounding city. He said it was very evident and very in your face with the liberals in Boston. And he said that he didn't really experience much racism in the South growing up because the South is no longer about that. But try to tell a liberal that. They still live in 1950 where they think the South is full of Democrats and that it's all racist. So the reality of it all doesn't fit the script, does it? And that's the key, guys. This isn't about discovering truth. This is about confirming assumptions, preconceived notions, if you will. Because once you've decided you're morally superior, everything becomes evidence, even when it isn't there. And you can almost picture the scene. Look, kids, mom says, pointing out the window. Do you see? See what? Look at those poor black people suffering. Mom, I don't see anything like that. Exactly. That's how subtle it is, kids. I mean, this is what they're teaching their kids. And that right there is their entire worldview. It's not about reality. It's about performance. She was probably doing that interview to become the first lady someday. And she blew it. It's about going on a political field trip where the conclusion is already written before the trip even begins. I mean, come on. Wasn't that obvious? Here's the part that no one wants to say out loud. Regular Americans, whether they're in red states or blue states, they're not living in this cartoon version of reality. They're working, raising families, trying to get by. They're not props in someone else's morality play, if you will. But to people like this, oh, they are. You are. And that's the divide, guys. That's the divide in this country. It's not just political, guys. It's cultural. It's a mindset that says half the country is broken while the other half pretends that they have everything figured out. And yet, study after study shows conservatives in red states report higher levels of happiness and fulfillment, which raises a very uncomfortable question, if you ask me. If everything is so backwards in red states, why are people more content there? The belief that half the country exists as a cautionary tale while the other half pretends it has figured everything out. And that's the tension nobody wants to address, because once you do, the narrative, it just starts to fall apart. You know, at the end of the day, this isn't really about Gavin Newsom or his wife. It's about how a certain class of people, they view the rest of the country. Hillary called us deplorables. Remember that? They don't think of us as equals, not as fellow Americans, but as something to observe, to critique, and to judge. But the good news is more and more people are waking up to that nonsense. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So tell me what you think in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys on this one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.